Hello everybody, my name is Melissa and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my first December video. I have a bunch of videos planned for the month of December and I'm super excited because this is kind of like the year end wrapping up, what I've read this year, my goals for next year, all of that fun stuff. But before we get into all of those videos, the first one I want to do is kind of my little wrap up of the books that I read in the month of November, what I'm currently reading, and the books that I plan to read the month of December. So in the month of November, I read, I believe, let me just double check, 4 books. So I read 4 books and I feel like, to be quite honest, it's not my best reading month, but I feel like I read some really good books. I read a couple that I didn't like, but a couple that I did like. So I have a couple books to talk about, so let's go ahead and get started. So the very first book that I'm gonna talk about is the one that I finished first in November, and that is Raphael by Tilly Cole. This is a dark romance book. It is technically the first book in a series. I read the prequel, I think back in like 2019. This is dark. It definitely has some very triggering content warnings. So if you want to be made aware of those, definitely check those out. I'm sure someone has them listed on Goodreads. This is a pretty short book, but definitely packs a pretty big punch. So this is about Raphael and Maria. Raphael is one of the 7 deadly virtues. They're basically these group of boys that have grown up, and back when they were children, they were kind of like basically kept prisoners by this group of, I think they're called the Brotherhood, which are these priests in the Catholic Church that basically go like all Spanish Inquisition on these boys because they deem them evil. So they do very horrendous acts to them, and obviously it messes them up. Either they were a little bit unstable before, but this definitely makes them even worse than they would have been. This is about Raphael and Maria. Maria is a nun. The Brotherhood recruits her to kind of get the attention of Raphael, and this is their story. So I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was an amazing read. Obviously, if you are not a big dark romance reader, don't pick this series up, but I adored it. I loved it so much. I read it for the Smetathon, so I'll leave that vlog linked down below. And I have the second book somewhere right here in front of me actually, so I really need to get to this one pretty soon. It's a little bit thicker than the first one, but yeah, definitely a great dark romance read if you are interested in that. The next one that I picked up is another romance book that I think a lot of people really enjoyed this past year, and that's The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This is a super cute rom-com that is based on fan fiction of the Star Wars characters, like the Reylo, Kylo Ren, and like that ship basically, which I was absolutely here for. So I'm not a big fan of fan fiction, but this one had me hooked from the start. This is about a girl named Olive, I think her name is, and she is a PhD candidate, and she ends up wanting to let her friend date her ex-boyfriend. And so how does she do that? By kissing the first guy she sees, and it ends up being a professor at her school. So it's not taboo in the fact that he is her professor, but he is a professor. And this I really liked, also not just dealing with their relationship and the fake dating trope that goes along with it, but the fact where, you know, if you are dating a member of the staff or something of that nature, and people kind of expect you to like fix their problems, or you're the reason for their problems because you're dating that person. So I really like that little small exploration that was involved in this book. It was super cute. I flew through it. It was such a fun read. This one, I think I did vote for the romance book for, what is it? The Goodreads Choice Awards. So yeah, had a fun time reading this one. Definitely highly recommend to pick up. The next book that I picked up, I was very disappointed in, and that is Heart and Soul by Jen Frederick. This is the same author that co-wrote, what is it, Paper Princess, which I adored. That like new adult, super drama filled, angsty romance. This is not that. This is a traditionally published by Berkeley. It says contemporary romance. This I really felt was like not a romance. This is about a girl named Hera, and she was adopted as a young girl from Seoul, and she ends up living in, I don't know if it's US or Canada, I can't remember where. She ends up finding out that her birth father has passed away. She doesn't feel connected because where she lives is just kind of very whitewashed, and she was kind of like the only Asian kid growing up. So she wants to go, you know, back to where she was born and kind of like feel a connection, maybe find the rest of her family. And that's really what this book was about, dealing with those topics. And it definitely was not as really just that rom-com kind of K-drama that I was expecting. This was definitely more drama heavy than romance. So there is a tad bit of romance. She meets a guy at the airport once she arrives. She mistakes him for being a driver. Obviously he is not. He is a very rich man, and she ends up kind of like having this relationship with him as she's kind of going through, you know, the first 2 weeks that she is in Seoul, trying to figure out, you know, who she is, where she comes from, and all of that stuff. So unfortunately, not really what I was expecting going in, and I am kind of bummed about that because I thought this was going to be something that it wasn't. The next book that I picked up, I cannot believe that it took me this long to finally pick up, and that is Mariana Zapata's Culti. This is a fan favorite of hers, and I cannot believe how long it took me to finally pick this up. I know the reason why is because most of her books are on Kindle Unlimited, and I ended up picking this one up physically because of the buy two get one get one free like Target sale that they had going on. And I usually read her books through Kindle Unlimited, but this one has never been on there, so I've just never picked it up. This is about a girl who is in the like major leagues soccer team in Houston, and she has like worshipped this player Culti like as a child. She like wanted to marry him, kind of fangirled. He's like 13 years older than her. She had it like, he's the reason why she wanted to do soccer, and he ends up becoming her coach. And this is kind of like their story, so it's a little bit taboo because she is a sports player, he is the assistant coach. It has a bit of an age gap by like 13 years, but I loved this one. I am not a sports person myself, but I could definitely still, you know, understand what was going on when she was, you know, in her games or doing her drills and things like that. So I highlighted and tabbed a bunch in this book. It definitely was so good. If you love slow burn, I think, you know, this is definitely one I would highly recommend as well. And, you know, she, as we all know, Mariana Zapata is the queen of slow burn. So this one was just such a good find for me when I saw that that was on sale. And I just am kicking myself for never picking it up until now. So I am actually still in the middle of this book. I told myself I would finally finish it. I have not, and that is Bunny by Mona Awad. I am on page 195. I'm literally like a little over halfway through this book. I'm still loving it. This is very different. It is like this dark academia story about a girl named Samantha, and she goes to this university. She is a scholarship student, and she ends up, at the beginning you see she hates this group of girls and they all call each other Bunny, and somehow she starts becoming their friend, and like all these like weird things kind of happen. It's very just, I mean, I understand why people have a difficult time explaining about what this book is about because it is just so weird. And I really like this kind of supernatural elements that kind of go along with this, and the kind of commentary that this author presents about women in society and how they are supposed to be like portrayed, the way they're supposed to act, and the clothes they're supposed to wear, and all of these kind of things. I really am enjoying like this deeper dive kind of into this book that I've been doing. I literally have highlighted, annotated pretty much almost every page of this book. If I had a like tab for everything that I've highlighted, it would be like chocked full of them. So I actually need to go back and start re-tabbing them, to be quite honest. But I'm really loving this. I really want to finish this soon. It's just taking me a little bit longer because, like I said, I am kind of taking my time with it, annotating it, highlighting it, and just kind of doing a little bit more of a deeper dive into this book than I had originally planned. Okie dokie, so now I'm going to talk about the books that I plan on reading in December. So it is now the first weekend of December while I'm filming this, and I've actually already finished one book, and that is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is a YA kind of thriller novel, Knives Out-esque. So if you take Knives Out, this young girl basically inherits this billion-dollar estate. He's an oil tycoon. He has 4 grandsons, and she's just randomly selected to inherit all of this fortune and this money and this house, and just like crazy because she basically comes from nothing. So this is really, really interesting. I found myself listening to the audiobook. I reached for that more than I did physically, and the audiobook was just a fabulous way to like take in this story, to be quite honest. I never found myself bored. Always something new was happening, and this has a game-like quality, obviously games, because there's clues that she has to kind of follow, and she doesn't really know who to trust out of the grandsons. Like, they all have ulterior motives because they want the fortune for themselves basically, but if, you know, she is the one holding all the cards. So I really enjoyed this one. Super fun. I think I want to pick up the second one as an audiobook as well. I still need to take the sticker off of it, but yes, I am super excited to give the second book a try and see where it goes from here, because it did leave off on a bit of a cliffhanger. All right, so the only Christmas book that I have on my list is In a Holidays by Christina Lauren. This is an author duo, which I have loved some of their books and I have disliked some of their books, but this is, I feel like, the most fitting for this time of year. This is about, I think she ends up like having to repeat the same day over and over again. Honestly, not quite sure. This was huge like last year, to be quite honest, when it came out. I never picked it up. I was actually sent a copy of The Ark by a book friend last year, obviously, and never ended up picking it up. So I am excited to give it a try and see what I think. Like I said, that so far is the only holiday book that I have on my book selection for this month. The next book that I have to read is another young adult book, and that is Xoxo by Axio. This is another like K-drama inspired YA book. I am hoping this one, you know, is a lot better than Heart and Soul, but this is about a girl who is a cellist and she meets a boy in her school. I think she is from the US. I guess they you know, fall in love, and he ends up going back to Seoul or South Korea, and you know, she doesn't think that she's ever going to meet him again. She ends up moving to South Korea, goes to the same music school or high school that that boy is in. She finds out that he is a big K-pop star, and drama will ensue from there. So I'm super excited. I have been reading a lot of like K-pop inspired books. Like, that is what the majority of the books that I read this like earlier this year were about. So I'm really excited to give this one a go. It's traditionally published, unlike most of the ones that I read earlier this year, but yes, I'm very, very excited. So of course I needed a good slow burn romance, and I chose All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. This is a grumpy sunshine. I think it is about neighbors. She ends up moving to like this secluded mountain area, I guess, I don't know, small town kind of vibes, and that's really all I know. I really liked Wait For It by Mariana Zapata, which is another neighbor romance, and I really enjoyed, like, I feel like this is going to be like Wait For It and Credence, but not Credence vibes at all, just maybe like the whole like mountain type secluded area book. So maybe not like Credence at all if you've ever read that book. But anyways, I'm really excited. I really enjoyed Culti, like I said earlier this past year, or last month rather, and I just feel like I need another Mariana Zapata book. Hopefully it doesn't put me in a reading slump, because Culti almost did. And a book that I don't really know too much about is The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. This is a fantasy romance. That's all I know. I think I am kind of in the mood for some fantasy, and I don't have any like high fantasy on this book selection. Most of it is romance heavy, so I figured maybe a fantasy romance would be just the ticket. I think you can get this on Kindle Unlimited if I'm not mistaken, but I ended up picking up the physical book because I've just been in the mood to read all the physical books. I haven't been reaching for my Kindle as much this past couple months. I'm pretty excited to pick this one up, even though I barely know anything about it. And the last book that I want to read in the month of December is going to be Heartstopper Volume 2. This is just one of those like feel-good graphic novels. The first one was just so cute and heartwarming, and I think I definitely want to pick up the second one. It took me a long time to finally purchase this, but I did, and I need to finally get to it. This, like I said, is a male-male high school romance and graphic novel. Super, super cute, and just kind of like coming to terms with who you are and all of that good stuff. So I think this will be a good quick read to like pick up after, you know, maybe if I get in a bookish reading slump after that Mariana Zapata book, who knows, but hopefully I will get to this one and get to the next. I think there's 4 now, so get to the next 2 afterwards. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching my reading wrap up, my currently reading, and my December TBR. If you've read any of these books or have any thoughts or opinions, I would love to chat about it, talk about it in the comments down below, and I hope you have a great day and happy reading. Bye.